it's health, right? So
it's
like
health.
People, when they fat shame, you shouldn't fat shame. I agree
Flat
with you.
shame?
See, what I say is, look, this is what I tell people, and I'm sticking with it.
Oh, man.
My brain thinks too fast for my tongue.
It's
and
fair.
it can't catch up, and
That's
then
fair.
I just add words. I combine words like gratisfaction.
Gratisfaction.
But I agree, you shouldn't fat shame because you don't ever, like, so the person that comes, you don't ever want them to be demoralized, and they're there to better themselves. You want to
Right.
encourage that. But where I'm not okay with here we go, fatisfaction, the infatuation of fat is
Right.
you love yourself where you're at. But when it is unhealthy and causing problems, that's an issue to me. Especially you, fitness. I'm a fitness guy. You have a gym, right? Being morbidly obese is unhealthy. We
Right.
both understand that, the issues that come with that. So long story short, we'll get to rock and rolling.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm not okay with as a society, is saying being unhealthy is okay.
Absolutely.
Right. And we've done that as Americans, and we continue to do that. I mean, we were just talking about something today with, phthalates are a big issue. We're exposed to those in everything. We're probably being exposed to them in these cans we're drinking out of right now. And that decreases testosterone. That it can have a lot of other hormonal effects as well. And here we go. This is a fun one. So we read a study today in our coaches meetings about how over 150 days after an mRNA vaccine,
Okay.
sperm count decreases by 25% and gets worse over those 150 days.
Holy cow.
So the only reason it doesn't go past 150 days is because the study stops at 150 days. But based on the trend, it's going to continue to
decrease.
Right. So if we're going back to conspiracy theories that we all have, because we're realizing more and more truth is coming out about this, we understand that the powers that be that may or may not have had something to do with COVID being manufactured, what they're all about is population control.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of interesting that mRNA vaccine is decreasing sperm count.
That's wild, man. You think about the biggest guy that was a supporter of it, Bill Gates, has the most farmland in America.
Yep.
And was one of the biggest supporters of it. And he has talked about how you control population before in the past. Very interesting. I did not know that.
Interesting correlation there. May be off, but I don't think
there's something to it.
We used to be called crazy for being conspiracy theorists, and we're realizing it's not so crazy anymore.
No.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
It is interesting. And, back to the topic of telling everybody that being unhealthy is okay, what does that cause you to do? It causes you to depend on the government more, and it causes you to depend on Big Pharma more, which is all a money-making business. It is a business. Unfortunately, it's become very corrupt, a very corrupt version of capitalism, but they are trying to make money. So they are slapping Band-Aids on problems that are causing other problems. So go down that rabbit hole.
Just one big trickle effect.
It's just dominoes. All the way down. Anyways, so we're here with Garrett Locke of the Forged in Fire podcast, and also Carmel Fire Department.
Yes, sir.
And what other accreditations would we like to throw in there?
NASM and ACSM certified for those that are interested, since I do have a personal training business. I'm not just your fly by the seat of your pants trainer. I did go to college. I got a bachelor's in science of kinesiology from IU. So
that's good.
I do have some.
Was it IU or IUPUI?
So it's through IU, but it was at IUPUI.
Okay.
Yep. So that's where I finished out my college, was at IUPUI. Loved every second of it. But in a world full of internet people and fly by the seat of your pants information that we all find out, especially you as the gym owner, there's a lot of misinformation out there and myths that aren't true. I like to throw that out that, hey, it's not better. There are great people out there that have 0 certifications to their name, but I do have some sort of background knowledge in nutrition, health, wellness, physiology, all that good stuff.
What's the biggest piece of misinformation you have come across as a trainer?
Ooh.
Or somebody in the health and fitness space?
Man, That is a loaded question. I think we could probably spend the next 3 days talking about this answer. The get fit fast would be as a generalization, right? I would say that is the biggest myth that I have a problem. The 90-day fix, the whatever it may be, the get fit fast. It doesn't happen. Me and you both know it's not an overnight process to get to where you were at. It's not an overnight process for getting fixed. And I think I managed a supplement store for a while with a guy I was business partners with. And supplements, everybody thinks that's the quick fix, right? Well, if I just go take this fat burner, if I take this SARMs and peptides and different things are now the big craze. If I do this, then I'm going to be fixed overnight. And there's no substitute for the hard work in the gym and then the nutrition and dieting that goes into it.
Well, it's a lifestyle change.
So exactly what it is.
Yeah, you don't maintain or get fit by – you can lose weight, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting more fit or gaining muscle or, getting healthier. You're just dropping weight fast. It has to be a lifestyle shift overall, nutritionally, training-wise. It's not just working out anymore. Train for something.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing is intentional training for a purpose. Because like you said, if you go strictly by this, I could have somebody eat McDonald's every day or Oreos if they're in a calorie deficit. And they'll be fine. In general, right, there's more that goes into it that. But we can get anybody to lose weight. I can take the person that's 150 pounds overweight, put them on a diet of Oreos and a double cheeseburger. Right. We both know those are very unhealthy things to eat in large quantities, right? Everything in moderation. I do think that's a big thing that people get misconstrued, right, as well. If I'm trying to get healthy, I can't have anything like that. But I can take you and we can lose weight on Oreo diet.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that's the way to go.
No. So that's the big one is, like I said, we could talk about so much. And I don't know if I answered your question directly because
the misinformation.
There's the biggest myth, the get fit fast, or there's only one way to do things. There's multiple ways to skin a cat, for lack of better words, right? Same thing in fitness. There's multiple different ways to become fit.
Right. So. Well, and I guess the definition of fit is a little bit different for everyone.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Fit for you is different than fit for me or the regular John and Jane Doe that you meet out in the street and what they're training for, right?
It is pretty simple, though. Whole foods, slight caloric deficit, and just be active.
Yeah, it is not a hard process. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier before we even got started on there, the paralyzed progression, right? And we were talking about business or people getting started in different avenues of life, but it leads to that as well, right? I think that goes right into what you were saying.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the Forged in Fire podcast.
So, as Will introduced, I am a firefighter paramedic in Carmel, Indiana. And this
second greatest place to live in the nation, unless you like mountains, and then it's not. But yes, second greatest place. You know what the first greatest place to live? Not to side note here, but to side note, Naples, Florida.
That is funny because I would have thought, because a couple years ago I think Carmel was one.
Oh, was it?
And that is my number one vacation spot. I have family that lives in Naples, Florida. Yeah, I do. So when I am not in Carmel, Indiana, I'm in Naples. So I guess that is correlation, right? I must like something similar about the two.
Yeah. There's a reason we have a legacy insurance office in Carmel, Indiana, and Westfield, Indiana, technically, but
close enough.
And Naples, Florida now.
Hey, congrats to you on that one.
Well, so, it's not me. It's the partners and the powers that be. But we're all in on it.
I'll be doing my work on a beach, not here in gloomy, doomy Indiana during the wintertime. But that is how Forged in Fire came about. Forged in Fire is a podcast that I started. It is run solely by me. I don't have any co-host, and it is Forged in F.Y.R. is how we spell fire. I've done multiple different things in my life, been through a lot, and F.Y.R. stands for Finding Your Reason, excuse me. So I used Forge, right? The play on words in the firefighting community, we deal a lot with fire, but forging is heating something up, bending it, shaping it, molding it to what you want it to be. And so we're forged in finding our reason. Everybody has a reason in life. Mine is different than Will's. It's different than my mom's, my dad's, my sister's, your wife. Your kids will have a different why than you do in life. And I think that is the most important thing somebody can find is their why or their reason. So that is how the name came about, Forged in Fire. And we've taken that and run with it. And whether it helps one person or it helps millions of people over the course of the podcast and everything that it runs, then I'll have fulfilled my purpose in creating it and helping someone find their reason, whether that be faith, family, fitness, whatever walk of life they're in.
Yeah,
so
that's cool. That's cool. So tell us what inspired the start of the podcast.
So I'm a big podcast listener myself, and
who's your number one?
I would say Ed Milet,
Okay.
or Jocko Willink.
Good old Jocko.
Good old Jocko. Speaking of Jocko, shout out to the Go energy drinks.
Have you gotten a pair of his Origin, I guess it is Origin main boots?
I have not. I've been wanting to order myself a pair.
They're great. They're
Well,
good boots.
Then come recommended highly from you. I'm going to have to get a pair.
Whatever that means, right? Sorry, Jocko. That may not be a good thing for you.
No, absolutely. I would say that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Those are my two biggest. I feel like they have done so much with their life, inspired many people in different avenues, right? Both of them are, I would say, leaders and mentors in their community, and I would say in the world, right? Ed Milet is huge in his faith. Faith is something very important to me.
I didn't know he was a believer.
He is. He is very outspoken about God on his podcast and his belief in Jesus.
That is cool.
And how that kind of directs his life and the choices that he has made.
Right.
He is also a very incredibly successful businessman. So he is somebody that doesn't just talk the talk, but he gets out there and walks the walk. And then Jocko, right? I think for the people that aren't listening, Jocko was a Navy SEAL and has multiple books out there. Extreme Ownership is one that I think everybody should read.
That book's been out now for almost 10 years, too.
Yes, it has.
That book has been probably one of, if not the most influential book on my path in life. I mean, it just teaches you to, if you're touching it, take responsibility for it.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter what it is. You can take ownership for everything you do in life. Like we've talked about, our fitness, our faith. It's you versus you, right? And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Is that ownership. So those are the two big ones. And right, there's I come from a public service family. My father, my grandfather, they were military veterans as well. Both served overseas. My grandfather's a Purple Heart recipient from Vietnam. My dad was over in Saudi Arabia during the Persian Gulf.
Wow.
Both have some pretty awesome stories, and just somebody that's willing to service over self, right? Provide us with a lifestyle that wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for them. Is something that very few people are willing to do.
I would agree.
And just the way he takes military leadership and correlates that to everyday life and how you can command your life in that same fashion.
I feel like many of the families that I know that have been in service, it has been a lineage. It has not just been a single person. I guess I wouldn't say that wouldn't initially start somewhere, right? That could have started with the youngest generation. But I mean, do you find that being the case with people that you know that are in the fire department, police force, things like that? Do you see that being a kind of a legacy career that's just you serve? That's what you do in your family?
I really do. Like you said, it starts with someone, and then I think it is an ingrained behavior in servant leadership through those people and how they run their family. But sorry, Dad, was the first male to not serve in my lineage from as far back as I at least know. All the way from my great-grandfather, stories from him and my grandfather and my dad. My great-great-grandfather and before him, they were all in the service. So I was the first one to break that, but I didn't break it in the aspect of I still serve in a way being a firefighter.
Just not military.
Just not military. And I don't think that military is for everybody.
No.
And you give back in your own way, right? No matter what that is. For me, that's being a firefighter, paramedic, serving the community that I grew up in.
Right.
And that is how I repay that debt, in my personal opinion. But yes, it is like you said, a legacy that is left and passed down, and that's continued to pass down. It's something that whether my kid decides to do the military or not, be in public service one way, shape, or form, I will be extremely happy if they do, but I'll be extremely happy if they don't either, because they'll give back in their own way.
Sure. That's cool. So, leading up to the podcast, what has the last couple of years of your life looked like?
So the last 4, now going on 5, have been more stable in the aspect of right when I graduated college, I got into corporate wellness and my personal training business. So those were the 2 things that I focused on, and I absolutely loved every minute of it, and it was good. I got into business, dabbled in a lot of things, right? Trying different things out. I wasn't afraid to take opportunities, risk, just get out there.
As you should in your 20s.
Right, that's when, your 20s and your 30s, you're trying new things, you're getting out there, don't be afraid to start that business, right? Don't be afraid to make that leap of faith, move to that new city, do something different if you're not happy with where you're at. And I wasn't, and I will say a little bit different than my family is nobody's ever really been an entrepreneur per se, other than my great-grandfather who started his own mechanic shop.
Man, entrepreneurship of that day looks so much different than it does today.
You're 100% right. It's not even comparable, I don't think. But going back to my original, what we were talking about is helping people was, I felt like, my mission or my reason that I was put on this earth. I felt like had been able to talk to people really well, connecting with them in not just a surface level, but a deeper emotional, spiritual type way, and connecting with them, making them feel comfortable. And for me, that's what I wanted, whether it was going to a random person through a company that I was working with, or the client that I had for the last 3 years working with, helping them achieve their goals, and really getting to push them out of their comfort zone and become a better version of themselves is what I felt like I was called to do. And it was a little bit of, like I said, dabbling in different things, starting a clothing business, it started off successful, and then it kind of fizzled out through nobody's fault. I had 3 partners with that, and we just kind of went our separate ways, and it was great. It was a wonderful learning experience, right? To me, there's failure or failing is your first attempt in learning. That's what I use fail as, first attempt in learning. And it taught me so many different lessons in life that are invaluable.
Yeah.
And
that's a good acronym.
Yeah, that I like that. It was good. It was
first attempt in learning.
So you never actually fail, right? It's just your next step in learning.
Yeah, you never fail if you learn from it.
You're 100% right. It's what helps us. There's no such thing as a perfect person or a perfect anything in life, but our mistakes help us, I feel like, work towards being a perfectionist.
Yeah.
For the individuals that look at it that way. But not to go down this rabbit hole or tangent, right, is I felt like I was called to do something more than just the personal training. I was helping people on a daily basis, making a difference in people's lives. But public service, right, as I go back to it, was always a major calling in my family. Everyone, my sister is a nurse, my mom's a teacher, dad's a detective. I wanted to give back to the community that I grew up in, and I was like, man, firefighting paramedic is the way to do that. I get to do something that is crazy in a sense to some people, right? Like, who runs into a burning building? The other aspect is the paramedic. You see things, right? Like, unfortunately, pediatric cardiac arrest, regular people that have overdosed, or bad car accidents, where people are mangled, all kinds of just different aspects of that. And I was like, that is what I want to do. I can give my skill set in a much deeper way, and that was it. So it took me 2 years to get hired by a fire department. For the people out there that are trying, keep going. It is not an easy process. There's so many different avenues to get into it, whether you start as a volunteer, you start as a cadet, you come in with experience, you don't. And don't give up.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine that got on at Carmel, he's in my recruit class. He was a firefighter in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It took him 8 years to get on at Carmel. Like I said, it's just I feel like that's something that people don't realize is how competitive the fire service is.
Well, and especially in the area we're in, people want to move here, and so
yeah,
a
very affluent area. People love the school systems. They love the safety. It's not rated the number 2 place in America to live, right, for no reason. And I remember, like, when I tried out for Indianapolis, I tried out for Columbus, Ohio, all these different places. Like in Indy, my interview process, I think, was 2,100 people, and they were hiring 60.
Wow.
So the odds aren't very good on that, right? No. I made the top 300, and then that's where my journey ended with Indianapolis. I just lucked out to getting on a Carmel. But going to school here, my family living here, friends that live here, it's a little weird seeing people, but I can give back to them, right? Yep. And I do see them on runs. I do see them in the community, but I'm always well received, right, because of the interaction that I have with people, the comfort that I can provide to them, knowing that, hey, he genuinely cares about these people, and he's giving 120% of his full self to making sure that the best outcome achieved is possible.
You have a genuine sense of caring for people, and you have a very personable demeanor as well. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, from the first time I met you in the gym 10, 12 years ago, I was the guy who had the pissed off F.U. face on with my headphones in, blaring so that people wouldn't come talk to me. And this homie over here comes up, taps me on the shoulder. Hey, man, I like your tattoo.
I was going to say that is exactly how the story of Will and Garrett occurred and went down. Is I wasn't scared of the big mean guy that was older than me that was tatted up, and I was like, well, those are pretty cool, man. And I still don't have any. I talk about it every day, but I never pulled the trigger. One day.
Yeah. And then we created a little lifting crew there. I mean, we had, we got some pretty strong boys in there. Jack, he was pulling 500. I think was my deadlift more than his. He squatted more than me.
I can't remember exactly what it was.
He used to make fun of me because my squat was 115 pounds lower than my deadlift was.
Really? Mm-hmm. I don't remember that. I just remember being the weakest one of all, and I will tell for every.
Except on bench press, you had that one.
I will say I'm built. Yeah, I'm built for that. I'm short. I'm stocky, and my arms aren't super long. Yep. So, it worked out well for me in that aspect. We all had our specialty, right? Yeah. Deadlift, squat, bench. If we could have just used each of us in a competition, it would have been the best possible outcome.
Exactly.
But
it's funny.
I wouldn't change that for the world, man.
Those were good times.
It was great times, you know, and it's led us to a great friendship that now we're on a podcast together. You've got your own businesses, and, you know, I know this is your podcast. I feel like I've been doing most of the talking.
Oh, no, that's what it's for.
You've created exactly what you said you were going to do, which is amazing from my side of things to see. Is 12 years ago, right? 2010, 2011, when we met. It's now 2023. You're like, man, I had this goal, this dream, this vision, X, Y, Z. And it's not 100% done, or you've exceeded what you thought you wanted to do in life. And now this big picture is opened up, and the avenue that you're taking this down, multiple businesses, multiple states, you know, the gym that you have. I wish people could see the gym that you own. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah, it's good, man. The opportunity we had to come in here and just rectify the situation, you know, the previous owner, he did a great job for many years and just got tired, and understandably so. You know, he was running everything himself at that point. You know, we had a good chance to come in here and just kind of bring it back to life a little bit, you know, and because of that, we got a good situation with a good place to be in, and a lot of good equipment, you know, and it worked out really well. And man, since purchasing the gym and turning it into Legacy Athletics, you know, we didn't start a gym from scratch, but we came in here and took a very loyal community that had stuck around and said, hey guys, trust us to take care of you, trust us to make this place great again. And they bought in, and you know, 80% of them stayed and stuck around and supported us. They've continued supporting us through it. And, you know, it's built a very strong community here. I feel like the members that we have right now most of which would never leave unless life-changing circumstance, right? Moving out of state or whatever. And so it's been really cool to do that and build just a really phenomenal culture here. But I wouldn't have been ready to do that 12 years ago. When I wanted to buy the gym,
right?
Church of Iron being that opportunity that had fallen into our friend Jesse's lap.
Absolutely.
And he told me, well, basically what he said is, you're an idiot. You have a child on the way and a young wife to take care of. But how about this? And that led me into sales, and sales was a great opportunity, great career. I was able to open my perception to what was possible.
That's amazing.
My goal was like, oh man, if I could just make $100,000 a year, and then got into that career within a year, hit that, and was doing a little more. And not that that's the be all end all. I had to be humbled because I thought I was hot shit for a little while, and went through some humbling circumstances that led me to another career, and did just had a phenomenal career there, and through that I got a lot of windshield time, and that windshield time allowed me to listen to podcasts and really open my scope to more. And Jesse's probably going to be watching this, but hopefully this doesn't blow his head up too much. But he's the one who really taught me to open my mind and read more and not be such a ignorant redneck. He may have actually used those words too.
For those of you that don't know Will, back in the day, that was
shaved head, tattoos, tank
big
top,
jacked up truck, as loud as it could be.
Yep, of course.
Yeah.
Now we still have the big jacked up truck, but we keep it on the DL.
Yeah,
got a little rumble,
just a little bit. Let people know.
Classy.
100%.
Yeah, but God's been good, man. We've got this now. The insurance company was something I had a great opportunity to partner in, and we're going to take that thing national. And the way of, I never would have seen myself being in insurance. My grandfather retired from that business.
Okay.
He actually retired from Gregory & Appel. He owned his own book of business as well for years prior to that. Actually, I think he started that right after he came back from World War II.
Okay.
And at that time, man, it was paper sheets, and you're keeping track of. I don't know how they did it back in the day. Never saw myself going into that business, but it's a great business to lay a foundation and build a legacy career with that you can eventually pass down to family. And in that, it does allow me to have a little more time to do this. Be one-on-one and be present for people, and it allows me to own a gym. And it actually ended up being the perfect situation to own a gym because I need an office, and I spend when I'm not in meetings, I spend time in my office because I need my creative space. I need quiet space to get work done, make calls, things like that. And so we're the only CrossFit gym, I think, within Central Indiana that has open gym all day.
That's amazing.
And it's a part of the membership.
Which you can't get anywhere else.
No, not in this kind of gym. You can go to an LA Fitness and have that.
Yeah, but then you're not getting the coaching. You're not getting the every other thing that comes with the style of gym that you offer.
So the way God laid everything out, and then it's just kind of fallen into place. This is God's gym. It's not my gym.
And I think that's where people lose track. Is nothing is really ours, right?
No.
It's been given to us simply by the grace of God.
Hold it loosely.
And it's for us and how we manage that. We're stewards of his stuff, right? And I think it's a testament to you that everybody knows. Will's one of the most genuine people I think I know, man. I'm not telling any secrets here. Like you said, it's where I've never been to another gym, right, where the owner is greeted with warm welcomes by everybody. There's not one person that has a bad word to say about you. You're out there working out with your people, creating these close-knit relationships, which is why you have the community that you do.
Yeah, man. That's what it's about. Being in direct sales, you get to a point where you're like, if this relationship doesn't, like, if the time invested isn't paying out, then I got to move on. It's got to be more transactional. And that was another reason it just wasn't fulfilling. No matter how much money I made, it just wasn't fulfilling. I wasn't ever happy. I needed more purpose. I needed to serve kind of going back to what you were saying, and you know, military is something I thought about many times. I've been in the recruiter's office, taking the ASVAB. Like it's been right there, but it just, for my scenario, I had kids really young, you know, and I didn't feel, I grew up without a father, and so I didn't feel like that was the right path for me to be away from my family. Not saying that for others it's not, because for some it makes sense. Many it makes sense, and it's a great career. But you know, for me, where I was at in my life, the relationship I had with my wife, you know, my kids, I wanted to be more present. And sometimes I wouldn't say I regret not serving. Sometimes I wish I had served.
Right.
But if I had, or if I had joined right out of high school, I could be dead right now. First of all, because I would have joined right in the heat of I guess that was a war going on then.
The Iraq War.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But you know, and I had probably still do. Some people may see this in me, but I have a tendency to want to prove myself as a man. And you know, maybe part of that goes back to growing up without a dad. Who knows? Well, we'll save that for another time, though.
Absolutely.
But you know, because of that, I could have seen myself going down a rabbit hole with the military, and I never would have met my wife. You know, never would have had my kids. And even though that kind of started out a little rocky, you know, man, it's incredible. It's incredible to just see, like, look back 10 years ago, and see where we're at now.
That's phenomenal, and I think, like we talked about, we're stewards of God's stuff, and to whom much is given, much is expected. But the more you, right, the sower and the seed, you go out there and you harvest, right? People always think of they think seed, time, and grow. But I feel like people always, you know, they forget about, and I put it in here, is the big one. And the reason I said that is the sower and the seed, the sowing. People forget about the sowing and putting in that work. And like you said, it started off rocky with your family, but now, man, I can't think of a better example as a husband and wife and example for your kids and stuff than you guys, which is phenomenal, man. Yeah. And it's not perfect, right? No. But I think that's something that you guys are good at understanding and showing and explaining is, hey, life isn't all hunky-dory all the time, right? But this is how you combat that.
Well, it's just, I mean, it comes down to persistence, right? It comes down to persistence, it comes down to fortitude, it comes down to seeking wisdom, you know, and not making rash emotional decisions, which, you know, I'm guilty of myself. I think you remembered I was a pretty big hothead back in the day. Maybe I still have a little bit of that there.
You just learned how to manage it. Self-control, right?
Train my ass off is what it is.
Right. Yeah.
I'm too tired to be between two kids, training 2.5 hours a day, and you know, and then getting up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. every day. It's you just stay tired. That's how you manage that.
There you go. Right. It's like the Hulk. He's just angry all the time. You're just tired all the time.
Exactly.
And you also understand the risk of losing business, friends, family. And it's not worth it. No, so something that you did say, right, it was transactional to you is, I think it's very interesting when I think of leadership and different positions that we're in. You know, me at the firehouse, you at the gym, and in your insurance business, we have different styles of leadership types. For me, there's two big ones, and I think of a leader as transformational or transactional. And I think the way that the two types of leaders interact with their people determine how well respected they are, right? Whether it's authoritative or it's inspirational. And I think the transactional goes more into the authoritative side of things. And it is simply about an end outcome. Doesn't matter how you get there, who you hurt, how you, whatever it might be. And the transformational cares about the person in general and how they get to that point, the transformation of whatever they're going through. And it just goes down that path. And I guess the big question is, one, I want to hear your view on leadership, and I think it builds into you building the business that you have. But also, when you talked about transaction, the point I wanted to make is you loving the process. And I think that's where some people get lost too, is if it's transactional or it's all about the product, the end product, whether that be the money, the car, the women, whatever value this individual listening here today on the Legacy podcast, wants to place on it, that's a moving target. That's always going to be changing. Whereas when you fall in love with the process, you're always going to do, I guess I shouldn't generalize it, but 90% of the time you're going to make the right choice. You're going to do the right thing, and you're going to care about how it comes out. So without going too far, you are very much a representation of the transformational leader, but maybe a little bit of how you got there.
Yeah.
And then with that, going back to my podcast, right, the FIRE, finding your reason. Do you think your reason is why you are now where you're at? And we know that it's a rhetorical question. The answer is yes. But the process, trusting the process, your reason is your why, and you fell in love with the process, which is why you now have what you have.
If you have to fall in love with the process, and if you don't, then you're probably not in the right field. People told me that all the time when I was, at my last 2 careers is, enjoy the process. You're going to build the business. Just enjoy the process. I didn't. That's not what. It wasn't me. It's not what I wanted to do. I mean, you've known me for a long time. Yeah. I always just wanted to be a meathead in the gym, and then live in the woods somewhere.
Great life.
Yeah, right. It can be. The problem is owning a gym doesn't always get you to where you want to be if you have financial goals. It can. It definitely can. But nobody. I'll put it this way: every business advisor I know told me not to buy a gym. I didn't buy it because I thought it was a great investment. I bought it because, okay, we can make this investment work, and I have an optimistic view on a lot of things. I see the opportunity, and I'm like, okay, there's opportunity here, and it's a learning experience. And if I lose my ass on it, I've learned.
Yep.
I've been very blessed to come in. The way everything laid out for that, I'll kind of go backwards here, but the way everything kind of laid out for that, the day I finalized the deal was the day that the current, quote unquote general manager quit.
Okay.
She called me. She goes, "Hey, I'm not gonna be able to make this work." Crap. Called the owner back, the current owner. Hey, I'm not going to be able to buy this thing until I have a general manager because I have a full-time business I run. Right. The next day, I was coaching here, and my one of our members here, Sparky, what's up, Sparky? Shout out. Said, dude, you should give Caitlin a call. And Caitlin was a coach here a few years prior.
Okay.
She's a nutritionist, owns Lean Mean Green Health. She's our general manager here at Legacy Athletics, and writes all the Legacy Athletics programming. Guys, it's all custom programming. And we know our athletes. We can tweak things for those athletes. It's pretty cool. So I called her, or I texted her that day and said, hey, Sparky Inman, I don't know if you remember me or not. She surprisingly did, because I had only met her once. And I said, hey, Sparky said you may be looking for a career change, and here's the opportunity. Let me know if you'd be interested, and we can jump on the phone real quick. Jump on the phone. She's like, yeah, I'm interested. I was actually looking at leaving my job.
Oh, wow.
Like, how divine planning, right? Like, you can't tell me that's anything else. And so we get on a call, talk about the opportunity some more. I'm like, hey, this is what I'm about. This is what I want to do. I need somebody to run the day-to-day. She came in and has been a powerhouse here. I mean, everybody loves her. They love her coaching. She's an amazing coach. Love the programming, and anybody who's done the nutrition programming has had good results as well. And 6 months into owning this gym, we had to go down to Florida for a wedding. And that was a cool time, but not the time for us to take 2 weeks away. We could have gotten away with a week, but I was like, man, if we're driving that far, let's, my in-laws had a timeshare down there. They're like, hey, come down. Everybody will stay for a week and, we'll have a great time. Okay. So we did that, and I was a little nervous leaving, but man, I was gone 2 weeks, 6 months into owning a business, and not an issue at all. Like, I didn't have to worry about it at all. She was like, "You don't check your email. Like, I've got this," and she did. And she, time and time again, just continues to. I mean, she's putting on our second competition right now, and first one was just absolutely. I mean, best competition I've ever been to from a CrossFit perspective.
Wow.
And the compliments that poured in because of that was, just. I mean, we had a ton. So, anyways, I'm kind of digressing here, but she. Does an incredible job. So I've been very blessed to have the right people around me, and I've trusted them to do what they're good at. You could say, oh, well, you're just good at picking the right people. And I wouldn't even say it's that, because I've picked wrong people before. And I've picked wrong people quite a few times probably. So, that just comes down to like, okay, I've got my thing I got to focus on. I got to trust you to do this until I can't. And, I've been able to have good people just placed around me. That would go from a mentor's perspective too. Like, I wouldn't be where I'm at if it weren't for my brother, if it weren't for my, honestly, Jesse, he's been a huge influence. My brother Doug has been, massive influence on me. That's a whole story we'll go into another time.
Perfect.
Otherwise, I could be in jail right now, I would have been in the military and maybe shot and killed by now, because I would have gone grunt. I would have, I would have gone in. I wanted to.
You're not sitting back pushing papers.
No, I wanted to get into shit, man. Yeah. Let's go mess stuff up.
We're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it. Yeah. So that's been a huge blessing. And going through the sales careers I went through, I had. Jesse he brought me up under him in sales at the first company I was in. He actually recruited me in. He was the market recruiter at that time, and then he put us through something called the leadership pipeline. This is when he was getting ready to leave for the Air Force, but nobody knew yet.
Okay.
And so hopefully I'm not speaking too soon. I'm sure at this point he doesn't care if people know, but. So he was getting ready to leave for the Air Force and or get into the service, and so he was very fascinated by the Navy SEAL pipeline. And so while it's not anywhere close to the Navy SEAL pipeline, I'm just gonna no, we are not that big of badasses. But it was a cool structure of he kind of designed it in a way from a mental perspective of we're gonna exercise your mind, we're gonna give you hard tasks to complete. We had to read a book a week, one of which was Extreme Ownership, which is the first time I read Extreme Ownership. I had to read a book a week for 7 weeks, present on it, write a report on it, and honestly, that was like school. I didn't finish college. We had a few classes together at IPY for physiology, but I didn't finish college because I was learning more in the industry, and I've always been one to learn through experience and just doing stuff, right? So, for me, I've chosen harder paths. I probably have in a lot of ways, but I like to learn the hard way. I like to I like to learn from experience. I don't want it to be easy, No. With if you don't have adversity, you don't grow character. You don't get better. I would say that's a big part of the reason so many people nowadays they lack character and they lack intentionality because they've never had adversity, or the adversity that they've had. Let's look at it from a different perspective. The adversity they've had. The adversity I had growing up, which was adversity, but it wasn't. I didn't see people get shot every day. There were people that had much worse situations, than I did. David Goggins, great example of that.
Absolutely,
right?
Another phenomenal Navy SEAL.
Never would have. It never had experiences like that. But had adversity and chose harder paths. And that's, I would say, hell, entrepreneurship is a harder path. I'm still learning, man. I'm going to be learning the rest of my life, and I may never get to where I want to be. I heard something today that, I've never gotten to my destination. Right. This guy said that, and I'm like, I don't think I'll ever get to my destination until I'm gone
exactly
up there. And I think that's, if you have that mindset of I'm never going to get to that destination, you just keep trucking on. But then it's important to find something you love doing, because when I was in direct sales, I didn't love direct sales. It for me, it was get to that number, and I chased money for a long time until I realized what chasing money was to me, and it was chasing the freedom that comes with it.
Right.
But then you realize chasing money and chasing you maybe get to that point, you're never free because you just want more, and then you become trapped by the money, or you raise your bills. I made that mistake at a young age. Had $7,500 in bills a month when I was making good money, but then when I went to leave, I couldn't leave.
Right.
Because I had bills.
You're married to it at this point.
I had to figure out a way to make it happen. I had to lower expenses. And same thing when I took over or jumped in on the insurance business, partnered with my CEO Craig. And luckily I was in a very good spot at that point we paid off our vehicles. We moved into another house, and we're able to get the mortgage nice and low.
Yeah.
And kind of live more centrally located, so things were convenient. We'd get to the kids' school, get up to to work, all that fun stuff. And now we're rebuilding, figuring it all out. But kind of to go back to your question, it comes through those experiences and going through kind of that quote unquote corporate life for a little while is where I got a lot of that experience. But then I think the biggest thing was just humbling myself to be able to listen to others and learn from people that I didn't want to be like, and learn from people that I maybe did want to be like, seeing people that I wanted to be like fall off their pedestals and realizing they're human. And realizing we all screw up, we're all making mistakes, and we're all going to keep making mistakes. And then looking at that and just kind of trying to figure out who I was.
Yeah.
And now not making the money I was, but hopefully one day we'll get back there. And if we don't, we don't. I enjoy what I do. I get to do this.
You're happy.
I'm happy. But I don't know. I hate that word, happiness.
Right.
Happiness is a moving target too. There's only one thing that can make you happy. There's only one thing that's consistent and constant that can make you happy, and that's the Lord.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, I get to have relationships. I'm worried more now about what my obituary is going to say rather than what my resume says.
Dude, I'm right there with you. And not to interrupt you, because I love where you're going, but my biggest fear in life is I die. And as a Christian, I get to heaven, and I'm standing there at the gates of heaven in a room with Jesus and the Lord. And they start playing, we'll call it a movie. And I see all this stuff that I never experienced, right? Mm-hmm. And this is, to what you were saying, the Lord's like, this is what I had planned for you. Mm-hmm. But because of this, and this, or you weren't willing to take the opportunity, you weren't willing to make this move, you weren't willing to listen to the calling I put on your heart, or the pull that I had. This is what you could have had, and this is what your life was, right? Yeah. Or you're standing in a library, and these are all the books that I had planned for your life, in each different version. And then you see what you have, and it's one shelf out of the million that you should have had.
Yeah. There was I was in church a couple weeks ago, and the pastor said, what was this quote? Happiness slips out the back door. No, excuse me. Joy slips out the back door when ego steps up front.
That's good. And
for me, I tied my worth for a long time to my production, to how much money I was making, to my when I was coming up through my first company, being a team lead was like all I had lived for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I got it, and I'm like, what's next? And not that was the be all end all. Obviously there was a next step, but then I got capped. The situation. There's just politics that goes into it in any company, right? So we'll just leave it at that. But I wanted more, and I decided to leave, and I took a risk there. Got into Tom James, and again, great experience. It was a great place for me to be. A lot of personal development there. Realized what I was capable of from a sales perspective, and knew I could figure it out on my own, and I wanted to develop it on my own. And God, man, so where I'm going with that is the ego. Oh, there's a great book, Ryan Holiday, Ego is the Enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have not read that book yet. I have read Obstacle is the Way, and it is a great book. I'd love to read Ego is the Enemy. But ego is the enemy, and I was so worried about wanting to be this. I had a chip on my shoulder growing up, so I was always told I'm not going to amount to anything. I didn't go to real college, even when I went to freaking IUPUI,
which is a real college.
Which is a real college. I got told I didn't go to real college.
Right.
I'll leave names out. If they're listening to this, though, they know who they are.
They know who they are. That's
and
right.
we've had that conversation, and honestly, I told this person, I'm like, dude, and he's still a great friend of mine. I'm like, dude, that was motivation. He actually apologized to me for it, which I've never expected. And I was like, you know what, man? Like, that's pushed me to where I am. So I love you still, man. It's not a big deal.
Right.
I moved on from that.
You made me a better person
because of that. And the thing I think a lot of people don't realize is that chip on your shoulder goes away eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Like it either heals or it's just you're worn out,
right? Because
you're trying to fuel that fire rather than fuel the fire that God's putting you to go pursue what He's wanted you to pursue. So, going through that, I still struggle sometimes with like, am I doing the right thing? But when I know I am is when, I realize, okay, what do I desire to do? Mm-hmm. I desire to have relationships, which I didn't have for many years. When I was focused on sales, my friends would ask me to come out and do stuff. Dude, I was never doing stuff. I didn't have a life. I'd be traveling for Tom James. I had friends in the company.
Right.
I would be traveling for work, but like those old relationships I had, I didn't really get to spend time on. Yeah. And when I moved into the insurance business, it's like, oh man, I got a lot of time now. What do I do? Well, I set appointments, get in front of people, meet people. Yeah. But then what else do you do? If you have meetings to drop, or what if a friend reaches out to you in the middle of the day? What's so cool, and what my partner encourages is, dude, go where the Lord's leading you. If I have a friend reach out to me for help in the middle of the day, it used to be, dude, I'm sitting here in a $6,000 suit, and you want me to come help you move your couch? I've also got calls to make. I got sales to make. Sorry, bud. Like, if you could do it Sunday at this time, exactly on this date, then I can help you. And I'll say that I've had very few friends show up when it's time to help move.
Right? Yeah, that's when you know who your real friends are, when you ask somebody to help move you.
Yeah, and there's people I haven't asked, I'm sure, too, that probably would have. But, there's a few dudes who have. And those are the ones got your back.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, that's a real test. If you want to test out who your real friends are, guys, tell them you're moving. Hey, guys, I got pizza and beer. You want to show up and help me move? By the way, I don't condone pizza that has gluten in it.
Look, neither do I, but I'm telling you right now, last night, NCAA tournament, day one.
Oh, boy.
We ordered it at the Firehouse, and I think the word glutton could probably have been used. Because, breadsticks, pizza, garlic sauce, cheese. I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying. I'm honest here, right? Yeah. That's honesty.
Garrett's the guy who's, if it fits your macros.
Hey, you know what? Let's go for it in this point in time. So, like I said, moderation. My moderation was just enough for the whole week's work.
Yeah, one of my good friends, he says everything in moderation, even moderation.
Bam.
It's such a, isn't that, it's so funny. He quotes that all the time. We're like, all right, we get it, man.
Yeah.
That quote needs to be used in moderation.
That's right.
But it's good. I threw that at somebody today. So, I think you pursue that fire in your heart, that desire that we're all wired differently. We're all wired differently from our upbringing, from, our spiritual makeup, from our chemical makeup, and so we all have different fires that burn. And for me, it was not to be a corporate pawn, and I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. But it was I wanted to build something that was mine. I wanted to, and I wanted to do my own thing. I always kind of beat to
right there, right?
Create a legacy, man.
Exactly. Not to interrupt, but it all goes back to what this is about.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to keep harping on myself because that's not what this podcast is about. But I love what I do now. Wouldn't change it for the world. And God provides. That's what it all comes down to. We take risks, and I've seen a lot of growth in my family, in my spiritual walk, my wife's spiritual walk. Which, man, those are the most important things. Right. Because at the end of the day, it's who you impacted, it's who you loved, and I don't want to sound like a hippie or anything. I do think it takes hard work too, but right. Hard work and grind and adversity, but I still need to work. I got to be doing something, because if I don't, man, devil or idle hands of the devil's handiwork.
You ain't kidding, man.
And I don't need that.
Too much time for him to creep in.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I train hard. I work hard. Now work looks a little different. For work for me, part of my 14-hour day is 2 hours of training. Mm-hmm. That's part of work. That's part of that. That's trying to lead by example. I'm not always perfect. I'm not the fastest, the strongest, the best CrossFit athlete out there, but I love it. And so, and that's what we promote here, and we believe in wholeheartedly. So, I'm gonna be doing it. Right. And that's training. We both love training.
Absolutely. I train all day, every day if I can.
Exactly. But I love having conversations with people. I love getting to know people, and I love getting to serve people. And that's why I think sales is a great bridge to what you love, because it teaches you how to pursue people.
Yes.
God, that's what He's put us here to do. What is our purpose? Our sole purpose as human beings is to disciple others.
Absolutely.
And to live as Christ-like as possible. No, we're not going to be perfect.
Everybody's
none of us are ever going to live up to that. But I think if we pursue the desires we have, and then pursue people in that, and just really just try to be there for people, live and lead by example, right? Yeah. Again, like you go back to the leadership, transformative and transactional. You just lead by example. That's all it comes down to. Lead from the front. And I've never been accused of being a wind in the sails kind of leader.
Right.
I've always explained it as like, I grab you by the throat. You better run, because if you don't run, you're just going to get dragged until I drop you.
Yeah.
But if you want to work hard, you want to try to get your feet underneath you, I'll pull you along with me as long as we can go. Yeah. So, lead from the front, and be the example, hold standards, and just trust your people to do their work. Right. I don't look at any of the people I work with as employees. Yeah. They're partners in what we do. I could not run this gym and do what I love to do if Caitlin wasn't here.
Right.
Couldn't do this podcast if Braden wasn't here.
Shout out to Braden.
Can you imagine me trying to edit this stuff and set up this lighting? Well, there would have been shadows for months, years.
He had to show me where the power button was to the light behind us, man. I'm not trying to call myself out.
I mean, I figured out the power button, Garrett. That wasn't that hard.
I mean, the little dot with the line in it, not even a dot. It's a half, almost a full moon. See, that's why I need him. Everybody's got their skill set.
Right. Everybody's got their skill set. But, that's what's so cool about it. You build a company or build companies like that.
Yeah.
They allow me to do what I love.
Yeah, putting the right people in the right place, right? Mm-hmm. And like you said, ego. To me, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, man, because then I'm not learning anything, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not having people pushing. Just like we talked about in the very beginning, I had you and Jack with me in the gym, along with other people, right? Mm-hmm. And it forced me to put my best effort forward every day and push myself beyond limits, right? So pride and ego, I think, are interchangeable in a very close sense. Right? It tells us in the Bible, pride cometh before the fall. Yeah. And God is more concerned with our character than our comfort. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people miss that right there. And it all goes back to what we were talking about, right? Mm-hmm. When you do the right thing, you're a high moral compass, person of character and integrity, things will take care of themselves, right? Mm-hmm. You mitigate a lot of the wrongdoings, mistakes and stuff
Yeah.
that are unnecessary. Those are the mistakes, and things are going to happen no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But the unnecessary ones, when you do the right thing and put people first, right?
Right.
And I found in my career, right, as a firefighter, paramedic, somebody that leads people, whether it be in the personal training, I do a lot with the recruits, allowing others in a positive manner, right? And when I say this, having input or influence on you allows you to be influential to those people. And I know Jocko talks about that a little bit as well, in a little bit better fashion. I'm not always the most put together in my thoughts, but yeah, and I'd like to think I articulate pretty well. Look, prime example, you got me. My
Articulate.
Yeah, look, it's kind of like Charles Barkley. I just put a little flair on it, like ridiculous. But going back to that, my ADD kicked in, man, and I almost forgot what we were talking about there. No, we'll just leave it for what it is, because it was pretty good. But no, I'm not going to try and salvage it. You did.
It's all good.
My squirrel, right?
Yeah.
And bam, over to the next nut. So in the tree, but allowing the people to allow influence to be influential is, I felt like something, working with the recruits the other day, I messed something up, right? Not big. It was a simple workout, right? We were talking, I said this, do this, and I didn't say what I meant, right? One of my biggest things is always mean what you say and say what you mean. You're a man of your word, and your word is really the only thing you have in this life, right? If you can't be trusted, then what are you really good for? And I don't say that to be demeaning in any sense of the imagination, right? But if I tell you I'm going to do something and I don't do it, how are you going to trust me to do something the next time, or follow through with what I say?
Yeah.
I messed it up. I looked at them, and it's the simplest things, right? Because what you do in the dark is who you are in the light. But also, I messed it up. They started doing something. I'm like, yo, that's wrong, guys. That's not what I wanted. And they were like, well, wait, this is what you said. And I was like, yep, you're right. I said, hey, I'm sorry. I messed up. This is what we need to be doing. This is how I want it done. And I was like, that's my fault. I accept full responsibility. I'm like, you did nothing wrong. And, one of them afterwards was like, man, that was really cool. He was like, you accepted responsibility in front of everybody, didn't care about it, or didn't try to put blame on anybody else. And again, that's incredibly simple, man. But it was, now the next time I go to offer advice to this person, tell them something that they may need that could help them in their career, or I point something out to them, they're going to be more apt to listen to me, because, hey, this guy can accept responsibility when he's wrong.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to admit it in front of us and go.
You've earned credibility, yeah.
Yeah, and to that, not to keep talking, but credibility is something, I had this in my notes, and I mentioned it to Braden earlier. Credibility is something that is fleeting, I feel like, and it has to be renewed often.
What, you mean you just can't show up on Instagram and that?
Right, or you can't just do something once and then for the rest of your life you're that guy.
That's something that is very interesting in the new world of social media, is how everybody's a professional in what they do,
right?
Without accreditation. It used to be a professional athlete, you had to play in the NBA, you had to be in the NFL. I do think one thing that social media has done well is it has highlighted sports that are now becoming more professional sports because of the exposure to them. But how many personal trainers do you have out there that have never how many preachers you got out there who've never never gone to seminary? And not saying that people who don't go to seminary can't talk about the Lord. I didn't go to seminary.
Yeah, and definitely not me, and I'm a sinner, but
and I want to learn. I want to learn more about it. But I'm not here with all the answers by any means. No. And that's, I think, you see a lot of what is it? These there are ads all over Instagram, Facebook. Hey, you want to learn to make $1 million in the next, and never have to work again, live on the beach and do this and do that and sell this and tell people you can do this and man, you just be weary of that. I mean, what do they call those? Not Pharisees, but what's that word I'm looking for, Braden? What are those called? not Pharisees.
Like a fallacy?
No, gosh, why can't I?
I'm trying to think. So you're talking about somebody that is just...
The word is completely escaping me right now. ADD. Pew!
No,
it's
you're
gone.
good. That happens all the time.
Yeah, right. There's a word for that.
So let me ask you a question really quick. Maybe it'll spur the thought, because this is something that I ask people all the time, and I get different answers, and I've got my own answer. We'll see if ours align. What's the difference then? Because you just talked about being a professional, right? What's the difference between a professional and an amateur?
Ooh,
I like it. I got a little smirk back there from Braden. So I'd like to see what his is too.
Professional and an amateur.
What's the difference, do you think, between... And this is... There's no right or wrong answer, right? But I think I've got one that would align with you. And I could be wrong here.
Well, in my opinion, a professional is somebody that needs to have experience, right? They need to have experience, and they need to be educated in what they're coaching, teaching, whatever.
Without a doubt.
My focus for the last 10 years or 8 years at this point has been sales. I was a really good coach when that's all I was doing. I was a professional strength conditioning coach. Now I coach at our gym, but there's a reason I have a head coach in place. At some point, I would like to hone that skill in more again. Once I get the rest of the businesses in a place where I can focus, put time into that. Caitlin is a professional coach. Logan, they're professional coaches. I am definitely more of an amateur coach right now, and I'll wholeheartedly admit that. That's why I have the professionals here. I love coaching, and there's certain things I'm good at coaching. There's certain things I'm not good at coaching. But I can still offer value there as an amateur, but I'm not gonna claim to be the one with all the answers. I do have my opinions on things, and I do have answers for a lot when it comes to that stuff. But again, that's why I have professional coaches that coach here. Every coach at Legacy Athletics is a career coach, professional coach. We don't have a bunch of part-time coaches that float in and out, and I wanted that for consistency. I wanted everybody to be on the same page. We have a certain methodology we coach, and we want to stick to that. So, anyways, that I would say experience, education doesn't necessarily have to be a degree.
Correct. Absolutely.
But experience, education, wisdom, and I think that comes from humility. I don't know what else I would say to that. Those are probably the big three.
That's a great answer, man. I love it. Absolutely, definition of
what was your answer to that?
So I went a little bit different because I thought about it, right? And my answer has changed, right? If you would have asked me right after I got out of college, what is a professional? Somebody that is an expert in their field of study. Somebody that gets paid for that, right? I think when you look at it, an amateur boxer, an amateur NBA player compared to a professional, and I'll sum it up in this one word: the difference between a professional and an amateur is a standard. A standard. I took a different look at it, and I looked at it from my career. I looked at it from kind of what we've talked about in your field, but also military, other stuff. What separates a Navy SEAL from, no joking, a seaman? A standard that the Navy SEALs hold.
I'm sorry,
right?
It's hard not to laugh at a little bit.
Right, exactly. That's how I sat here a bit.
Seamen.
Seaman, right? That's what they call somebody in the Navy that doesn't have a specialty, a seaman.
Yeah.
I bit my tongue before I said it. But like I said, I took an unconventional approach to it, right? Because we have the expertise, the payment. But what is the difference, right?
Right.
And I've also heard other people, SEALs, other stuff talk about it, and they've alluded to it, is the standard, right?
The higher standard.
Yeah, it's a higher you're called, you live to, and you perform at a set standard, right? If you drop below that, you're not
right
accepted in that, right? Like if you look at it in sports, NFL, NBA, whatever. If you don't meet a certain standard, you're not in that, right? That's why I'm not an NBA player. That's why I'm not in the NFL, right? We both played sports. We come from an athletic background.
Yeah.
Rich Froning, we'll use a CrossFitter. We'll go into the debate of the who's better, him or Frazier, right? Two different athletes, right? It's like Michael and LeBron.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Michael's better, but that's for another day. No. I just had to state my claim there. Right.
Yeah.
Two totally different athletes, right? But the standard, right? They meet a standard and they don't falter from it. So
Michael
I'm
is
not
better, by the way.
Thank you.
No, back that.
Yeah, exactly. But so I won't talk too much more because I also want to leave more for other episodes.
That's a good question. The standard. There's also experience that goes into it. There's a reason I don't think that I can be. I just was thinking of an example here. Let me use a good example. Professional weightlifting coach John North. We just interviewed him. He has experience. He set records. The dude competed and still competes. That's a professional.
Right.
But he's been there. He's done it. He's educated. He has a methodology, and that's a professional. So I think that's what a professional is somebody who's been there. They've done it. Maybe not been done it at the top level, at an elite level, because we both know that there are a ton of athletes out there who make better athletes than coaches, and
absolutely.
Vice versa. So I don't think that you have to necessarily be the number one in your field to be a good coach. I know a lot of people who've been better coaches than athletes, but I do think you've got to been in the shit.
Yeah, and I think it leads right into it is somebody that's done it, knows what that standard should be in order to be a professional or in order to get to that professional status.
Right.
So like you said, and that's why I said your answer is exactly what I would have given. And it still is part of my full answer. But a professional is somebody that sets that standard, right? They've been there, they've done that, they've been in the shit per se, like you said. And now they know what it takes in order to be there.
Yeah. That's why sales coaches crack me up. I had people reach out to me to coach me on sales. And I'm like, wait, you're fresh out of college. What's your experience? Have you worked in sales? Oh, no, I do this. How are you going to coach me on sales if you've never been in sales? Now, to be fair, usually a lot of those sales coaches, they have to sell themselves as a coach. But I just have a hard time with that. That's this whole this whole thing that's going on nowadays of everybody can create a career on social media.
Yeah.
Just by they look better with their shirt off or whatever the ploy may be. I think you got to look deeper than that.
Absolutely. You have to do your research, see, like you said, what they've been through, what their expertise is, if they've been there, done that.
And do their values align with you, too?
Yeah.
There's a lot of big names out there that are in the podcast world, that are in the business world. And I may look at them and go, man, that dude's got a lot. He's got a lot of earthly pleasure, a lot of earthly things. What's his marriage like? Yeah. What's his relationship like with his kids? Because that's more important to me than how much money I make. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a hustler, and I'm going to keep building my businesses till the day I die because I would like to leave a nice legacy for my family, not just a business, but financially. I'd love to have the freedom. I don't live high on the hog, man. Give me a nice truck, guns to have fun with, and for me, other than that, I just want to travel. I want to have experiences. I want to go hunting. I want to go fishing. I want to, go to these beautiful places on this earth that God's put here for us to enjoy, and that's what I want to do. So once I have that, anything else is just gravy, And even that is just, you got to learn to be content, not complacent.
Dang, that is what we literally talked about when we were sitting up here by ourselves. Is and people get those things flipped, man. They think being content is complacent, and they're two totally different things. You're content with what you have, but you're not complacent. You're always wanting to do more, be better, but you're happy with what you have right now.
You always want to grow. And if you're not growing, you're dying. And I'm sure there's a biblical reference there somewhere, but you always want to continue gaining more wisdom and gaining more knowledge to get closer to the Lord, right? I think the same goes for professional life. You constantly want to be getting better, gaining more knowledge, becoming more and more of a professional in your field. Like if somebody asked me to coach them on businesses right now, we have 3 technically, 4 if you that we're a part of, and if somebody asked me to coach them on like how to be an entrepreneur, I'd be like, dude, I ain't qualified for that.
Right.
I don't know if I ever will be. And I could say I can show you what I've done, but I'm not gonna to say I'm the professional. Business coaches. How many business coaches are out there? I mean, I know there are some that have done something. But if you've just been a business coach, don't talk to me about freaking strategy if you've never implemented.
Yeah. Because you don't have the first clue.
You don't have the real world experience.
No, you don't know about strategy. You don't know about scaling. You don't know about... That could be a whole conversation, right?
Don't teach me how to sell. And really, I had a good conversation about sales the other day. I think sales is a good place for everybody to start because it teaches you how to deal with people and talk to people, teaches you how to pursue people, which I think is that's what my partner Craig talks about all the time in our business is, man, just pursue people. Just pursue people. You're not selling, just pursue people. And they serve them, help them. But I think that sales gets manipulated a lot of times to being, what are we selling for? Selling for greed.
Yeah.
Personal gain. And I do think there's a point where you're selling to pay the bills, but at a certain point you pass that. And from there, you're doing what's good for both of us. And really, even to begin, you're scrapping, man. You're just trying to provide, right? And one of my friends brought this up to me. He goes, selling is learning how to manipulate a situation to get to gain from it. And if you approach sales in the sense of how can I help you, and here's what my service or product can do to fill that gap, then you're in a good place. But if you're going into it, oh man, I'm gonna close all these deals, and I'm gonna get my Rolex, and I'm gonna whatever the rigmarole is of it all. But you go into it for personal gain, it becomes a very greedy profession, and that's where and unfortunately, I mean, a lot of people you're going to be around that's going to be the way they head. Not everybody, and there's a lot of great people out there that are in sales that also, but it encourages greed more than it doesn't. And so we were talking about teaching our kids how to sell, and I was like, man, I'd love to have my kids, learning to cold call, learning to put the work in, just do things that do hard things, right?
Right.
And then we started talking about it. I feel like teaching them how to, if I'm bringing them alongside dad, like, hey, this is what I'm doing to build a business, I think that's important. But showing them the right way, showing them why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for you, child.
Absolutely.
I'm doing this for our family, but I'm also doing this to be out there to serve others. And I think that's what's so cool about the service fields. I think you can find service in sales, if you're in it for other people, and if you're in it just to pursue people, and then try to provide a product that they want or need, But so many times, like, he said, this friend of mine, he goes, why would I want to teach my kids to try to push product on people that they don't want? Like, why would I teach them that? I'm like, that's actually a good point. That's not what we want to teach, you know. But that's why salesmen have bad names, you know.
That's why the used car salesman, nobody likes the slimy used car salesman.
Yeah.
And to go along with that, I think what a lot of people don't realize is everything we do in life is a sale to some aspect.
Mm-hmm. You're selling yourself constantly.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize that. Mm-hmm. Like, how did, as simple as when we were in elementary school, right? It goes back to literally when your kid becomes friends with somebody. How did they become friends? They, quote unquote, sold themselves to that individual that they liked the same thing. They had similar interests. Mm-hmm. They could be friends for whatever that reason might be, right? When you met Monica, your wife, you had to sell yourself to Monica. Now, it was probably the hardest sell he's ever made, and God bless his soul, it worked out well for him. I can't knock the guy on his own podcast.
She's beautiful, and I outkicked my coverage. It is quite all right.
That's the sports reference, yes. You know, you had to sell to Monica why you would be, at first, just a friend or whatever it was. Or then it moved into why you would be a good partner. And then you had kids, right? Now you got to prove to her why you're a good husband and
good father and provider. And,
exactly.
Right.
And so everything we do in life is a sale. And I think people get caught up or they don't realize it. And if people would maybe take a step back and look at that, they would be like, okay, and view things
what
different.
Is that? It is a sale. You're right, but that's the genuine sale, right? That's what can I do for you,
right? And that's where it gets lost, right? And then we go back to it goes the being in love with the process and the person that is in love with the moving target, right? They get the girl. Well, they got the girl, but it wasn't what they wanted. They got the sale, and now, okay, they got this and move on. Yep. They weren't in love with the process, right? The process of building and growing, creating something that is between you and your wife, right, is the same as building the business that you're doing and serving others. You're continually serving your wife, right? And people are going to get that twisted and all the whatever. No, that's what you do, right? That's what makes your marriage successful. I'll tell you
what made marriage more successful is when I quit going, she's not fulfilling my needs, so I'm not going to fulfill hers. Which you don't do that intentionally. Right. We all, but subliminally. And
you do it.
And at a certain point, you're like, man, I'm not getting what I want out of this relationship. I don't feel...
Screw it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, like, why would I go out of my way, you know, to do things like, sorry, babe, rub her feet.
Right.
You know, like, I don't love rubbing feet. I don't like feet, period. Like I don't get people who pay for pictures of feet.
Weirdos, man. Weirdos. But I'm telling you what, if she's gonna sell her feet, she could be a millionaire. You can quit now, live in your mountains, go to the beach, whatever.
There, right there you go.
Yeah.
But you know when that all changes is you know like when our marriage got way better is when we quit doing that and we started going, okay, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I'm showing up for you. I don't care if my needs get met or not. I'm here for you because and what happens there, man, is the flip side happens, right?
Right. Because now she wants to pour into you.
And if you lead by example,
oh my goodness,
so many guys are like, oh man, my girlfriend won't do this, but my wife won't do this.
What are you doing for her?
What are you doing for her? When was the last time you thought about like
when's the last time you cooked her dinner?
Yeah,
you did the laundry. You rubbed her feet. You told her to go get her nails done. Treat her to a day of something, right? Put her
and that
first.
Does not mean you're taking the beta male route.
No, not at all.
We'll go into that whole dynamic.
That's a different topic.
Time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Different topic for a different time.
Because I would love to get into that.
That would be a good conversation. But yeah, that you know, I think that just goes back to service, man.
Something that
goes back. That's how this whole podcast started off today. Was service. Yeah,
and that's and I love it because I barely got to talk about the service because I feel like most conversations, everybody always. What's this crazy run? What do you do? This, that, and the other. And so this has been phenomenal, and I can't wait to continue it. But leading into that, right, is something that most people may or may not know is I have been divorced fairly recently, and I will say it's made me a better person, which is funny because people look at me when I say that, and I'm like, no,
trial by fire.
Trial that, and
Forged
you know.
fire.
Forged in fire, right? But it brought me closer to the Lord. It showed me imperfections and fallacies that I had in my own life and way of thinking, and what we just talked about, right? Pouring into others and doing things. And I felt like I was always pretty good at that. But on another level, right? And marriage and love and relationships, it's not 50-50, man, because inherently it doesn't work. Some days you're tired. When you go home, you've busted your butt all day. You're not going to give that 50%. It might be 80% her, 20% you, whatever. Or somebody's always keeping tabs, right? Well, I gave 51, you gave 49. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work, and then that just leads to another slew of problems, right? But what I have taken and will do, and one is put her first, right? But 100%. If both of you give 100%, you're always filling each other's cups up to where then on that day that you have 20%, she's giving the 80. But then the day that she's at 15, man, you're filling that in with the other 85%, right? And you're filling her cup up, and there's always that appreciation for one another.
That's how you make one, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
two become one.
Exactly.
Two become one. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And that's what it is.
Together, you are 100% all the time. All the time.
Well, I love it, man. Love it. So.
All right, brother. Well,
I love it.
We'll have more conversation. I think we already found our topic for the next conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Appreciate you having me on, man.
Where can people find you?
So you can find me on social media, on Instagram at Lockdown, LOCKEDOWN. My last name is Locke. Garrett Locke, GARRETT, LOCKE on Facebook. And then when they are released, you can catch me at Forged in Fire. Again, Forged in F.Y.R. On Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
All right, man. Cool. We'll have you on again. Guys, we'll put that stuff in the show notes for you as well. If you want to go support Garrett and listen to his podcast, catch you next time. That was fun.
Love it, man.